I still remember the first time I read Satanas. I was completely shocked by the story, but especially by the character of Campo Elias, the main character. I couldn't stop thinking about him. At first, I saw him just as a cruel killer or criminal, someone full of rage and violence. But little by little, I start to ask myself deeper questions.
What led him to that point?
Was it trauma, loneliness, or something darker inside him? This book made me think a lot about human nature and evil that sometimes hides in people who seem normal. That's why this history impacts me. And today I want to talk about Satanas by Mario Mendoza. Satanas was written by Mario Mendoza, a well-known Colombian writer. I read this book for the first time when I was younger and I studied in high school. And since then became my favorite book. This book is based on a real massacre that occurred in Bogota in the year of 1986 in a popular restaurant called Pose, an Italian restaurant actually. And about the author Mario Mendoza, actually he met Campo Elias in the real life. They were classmates at the Pontifical Javerian University in Bogota. And about the main character, Campo Elias was a war veteran and teacher who one day killed over 1,000 people before taking his own life. In some interviews, Mendoza has mentioned that Campo Elias even tried to contact him shortly before committing the murders. And personally, at first I thought Campo Elias was just a freaking man, someone who had mental illness or behavior. At first, I thought Campo Elias was just a crazy man, a violent person with mental illness. But as I grew up, I started to reflect more deeply and realize the book doesn't try to justify his actions, but it doesn't invite the reader to understand how society sometimes pushes to the edge people, and it makes us question how mental health is often ignored, especially in people who are isolated and suffer in silence. When I was younger, I could have described Satanas as just a violent novel, but now I understand that it reflects how society treats with those kind of people. People with mental illness, behavior problems, low income people, and those kind of typical situations that happen in the society. So now about the name of the book, maybe shocking. The name Satanas wasn't the original title. Um, Mendoza first wanted to call it the chess player to represent how cold and calculating the main character was. But he finally chose Satanas to reflect the demons inside ourselves, the inner voices that sometimes take control and lead us to the dark places. And as I said, the novel is based on a real tragedy that happened in Bogota in 1986 when Campo Elias murdered several people and then took his own life. Mendoza used this event to create a fictional version with three characters whose lives cross paths the same night of the massacre. Note, the book tells three different stories that are all connected on the same tragic night, Boceto massacre. First, we meet Maria, a beautiful young woman with a painful background of poverty and violence. After being abused and abandoned, she decides to use her appearance to survive. She starts robbing men in Bogota in the nightclub areas by seducing and manipulating them. Her story shows us how trauma can shape someone's path in extreme ways. Then we met Andres, a painter with incredible talent. He starts seeing strange things in his paintings, details that he doesn't remember adding. One day, he paints a dark spot on his uncle's neck, or in his uncle's throat exactly. He paints a dark spot, and later the uncle is diagnosed with cancer in exactly that place. At first, Andres thinks it's a coincidence, but it keeps happening. This experience makes him lose his mental stability. His art starts to scare him. He doesn't know if he has a supernatural gift or if he's going crazy. And the third story is about Father Ernesto, a Catholic priest. He's known for helping poor children and being a moral guide in his community. But deep inside, he is struggling with guilt, frustration, and a forbidden love. Actually, he falls in love with a woman, but because of his celibacy vows and his religious role, after reading this novel, I couldn't stop thinking about how deeply these stories were tied together. Although they may seem unrelated at first, each character path eventually crosses on the tragic night of the massacre. If you had paid close attention, you might have picked up on subtle things that connect them long before the climax. The novel masterfully weaves together three parallel lives, those of Maria, Andres, and Father Ernesto, each struggling with their own inner demons. Had it not been for that fateful night, their history might never have collided. However, Mendoza had managed to bring them together in a way that not only exposes the darkness within society, but also with the human mind. Satanas is not just a history about violence, it's a story about humanity. It's about the things we don't say, the people we ignore, and the wounds we hide. Maria Mendoza uses this novel to show how evil can grow slowly and like a disease when society doesn't care of its people. He talks about poverty, gender, violence, trauma, religion, and madness. Not abstract ideas, but as a real things that affect that people. And it what makes this book even more powerful is knowing that it was based in real facts.